Okay. All right. I think we're live. At least I hope so. Okay. Okay, so this is my first time going live on my laptop. So, um, I'm just trying to make sure I can see everything. I did a little test run right before this. I'm just trying to make sure it's okay. It might be a little dark. Hopefully, it's not too dark. Okay. But anyway, since we're live now, hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Tashima. I am a doula and mom of four. Not too loud. The baby is trying to go to sleep. And I know I was going to go live, or I said I was going to go live last week, but it turned out my brother was graduating from high school. He's the last one of the Hicks clan who was graduating, so I could not miss that. So I was not able to go live last week. So yes, here we are, and I hope this is a good time. I hope it's like not too late, but it's Friday, it's the weekend. So anyway, today, we are going to be talking about the formula shortage. Now, I've been wanting to talk about this for a while because I know it is impacting a lot of moms and dads and parents out there who may be formula feeding. So I kind of just want to talk about like why it's happening, what caused it, and some ways to kind of deal with it or navigate it, as we are still currently, to my understanding, in a formula shortage. So I do have some notes here just so that I don't be like rambling or anything like that. But if you are new to my channel, or if you're if you're subscribed to my channel, then I'm a big proponent of breastfeeding. It is one of my main passions of life. I have breastfed all of my children, and my goal is really to get moms breastfeeding as often as they can, as much as they can, to help them on their breastfeeding journey if they are struggling in certain areas, or if they, feel like they're not producing enough milk, or if they just need that extra support. That is one of the big areas of interest on my channel. So if that is something that you're interested in, subscribe to this channel for new content, breastfeeding content, mom related content, doula content, labor and birth content, all of that kind of stuff. And if you are already subscribed, thank you so much. So hopefully I can get through this before the baby wakes up. He did eat right before this. I put him to sleep, but he is a little sick, so he has been wanting my attention nonstop. Oh, hey, mom. I didn't want to wake you guys up. I thought you were sleeping, so I didn't want to text. I know Yana said to call. But yeah, so let's get right into it. So hopefully I have time to say everything that I want to say. But one of the main contributors to this formula shortage has been the formula recall. Now, if you are a parent, if you know what's going on out there, you know that formula has been recalled due to due to a lot of lawsuits, actually, not some lawsuits, due to lawsuits. And it basically, certain brands of formula being labeled as not as being harmful to babies, and in particular premature babies. Now, I have a little story that I want to talk about concerning that, but that is one of the big factors, is the recall and the lawsuits that have gone with the lawsuits really that initiated the recall. And I think a couple of the plants where the formula was being made was either they were found uh, um, like dirty, or they didn't pass inspection or something like that, where they had to be shut down, or some kind of illness or virus came from out of them and they had to be shut down. Which leads me to my next big contributor of the formula shortage, was that formula, at least here in the US, is a big monopoly. So there's really only like two companies that are making formula, and they make a whole bunch of different brands, a whole bunch of different like kinds of formula, but it's still two big companies that control pretty much all of the baby formula sold here in the US. And one of them I do know for sure is Abbott, and I'm not sure exactly the name of the other one. So yes, and because most of the lawsuits and recalls came from that company, at least Abbott, I know for sure, And with them having to shut down one of their main manufacturing facilities, that's the reason why the formula shortage has just really taken a hard hit in the US because of that, because there's only a few companies that are doing it, and then they got hit with lawsuits and the formula has been recalled. So the formula that was shipped out to stores, where you normally can buy it. So like ShopRite, Walmart, Target, and I'm in North Jersey. So if these aren't places where you usually get your formula, those are places that parents could get it here, up in North Jersey, or up in the north of the US. So those are places that we were get it. But because of the recall, obviously stores cannot sell that anymore. They cannot sell the formula that has been recalled. So what they're supposed to do is dump it. If they get shipments of it, and they may have like a big shipments of it, they are legally supposed to get rid of it. They're not allowed to sell it. And so you have shipments backed up. You have the recalls where they can't sell it. They can't get it to parents or give it to parents because of the recalls. So that has added to it. And then the last thing, which is really broader than the formula shortage itself, is the lack of breastfeeding support, for mothers, period, in general, in the country of the U.S. And more moms relying on formula. So you have more moms utilizing formula than in the past, or more moms who are not breastfeeding as often or as much, and maybe may be combo feeding, so like breastfeeding and formula feeding, and you have more moms that are just solely formula feeding. So of course that creates a big demand for formula, and unfortunately, a lot of parents are struggling to either find a formula that their child specifically needs, because some children can't have milk, or they can't have dairy. Or they may have other things that they're allergic to or sensitive to, and they have to use only certain brands, only certain kinds of formula, and a lot of those are not found or readily available for them. Um, so it is, it has caused a bit of an issue. I know some parents are just at their wits' end. Some parents are driving around hours, going from this store to that store, trying to find formula for their child, and it's really discouraging. And one thing I do want to say, so one of the main lawsuit problems is, that premature babies were getting, I hope I say this right, necrotizing enterocolitis. Now that is like a problem with their digestive system. So the formula that was given to babies, premature babies, like in hospitals and things like that, are recommended for them to take, was causing them to have issues. And then those are where the lawsuits have come from against the formula companies. Now, my baby, my first child, was born premature. So she was 7 weeks early. And I did exclusively breastfeed her, but because she was small, so she was only 2 pounds and 11 ounces. Because she was small, they recommended that I use a fortifier when I went home from the hospital, in addition to my breast milk. So it wasn't like formula per se, it was like this powdered substance. Oh, hey, Dad, how you doing? I'm doing good. So, like this powdered substance that you add to your breast milk, which boosts your breast milk's calories, basically. Um, and so I can't remember for sure if they were putting that with my breast milk in the when she was in the NICU, because she did stay in the NICU, or the special care nursery for 5 weeks. But I know for sure that they sent me home with it. And like I said, it was like this powdery substance, and you put it with the breast milk. And at the time, I was pumping because she was away from me. So when I would see her in person, when I was actually there at the special care nursery, then I would, breastfeed, straight from the breast. But when I was home, then I pumped. So I had a lot of pumped milk, like saved up and stored up. Um, but I noticed that every time I added the fortifier to my breast milk, she threw up and like massively projectile throwing up. And she was only home for a few days, and I had to pump milk, so I kind of wanted to use it. So, even though I was there, with her, and I could feed her on demand, I was like, well, they said to do this. So I would add it to, bottles throughout the day and give it to her. And every single time I gave it to her, she would throw up. So to me, that was like, no, my baby don't like it. It's not. To me, I didn't feel right about using it. I'm like, what is the point of adding it to my milk if she's throwing up every single time? And that kind of defeats the purpose, because now she needs to obviously replenish those nutrients that she just threw up. So I was like, it probably was like 2 days where I actually used the fortifier, and I was like, "No, this is not for me." And that brand, specifically was NeoShore, and I do know that that is one of the formulas that have been recalled and also a part of the lawsuit. So I feel like, I always say as a mom, trust your intuition. If something doesn't feel right or seem right, then it usually means it's not. And in that instance, I did, even though I was a first time mom, and even though she was small, when she came home from the hospital, she was like maybe 4 pounds, 4.5 pounds. So, she was small because she had started off small. But I just really had to like trust myself and say, you know what, my breast milk alone is enough. And that's what I did. And, breastfed on demand with her from then on out and all my other children as well. And that's really why I'm such a big proponent of breastfeeding, and especially breastfeeding on demand as much as you are able to, because I just feel like you can't go wrong. Now, again, I know babies may have allergies to certain things, and sometimes moms, we have to take certain things out of our diet in order, to make sure that our baby doesn't have a bad reaction to our breast milk. But yeah, that was my experience with the NeoShore. My baby just did not like it, and so I did not use it. So I'm not surprised to hear that this formula is a part of the lawsuit, because for her it just didn't work. And then when I looked at the ingredients, they weren't really like high quality ingredients in my opinion. Like the first thing that was listed was corn solids. And I was like, well, that's just basically sugar. So they're adding extra calories by telling me to feed my baby sugar. And so it was just a no-go for me with that. So, like I said, I'm not surprised to hear that this was a part that Neil Shore specifically is a part of the lawsuits, which is really surprising also because with premature babies, a lot of the times you are focused on how much they weigh, um, because that is one of the requirements for them to go home. They have to hold their temperature. They have to be a certain weight. They have to be able to take all their feedings by mouth, and they have to. There's one other thing that they have to do, but they have to meet all those requirements before they go home. So these babies in particular are just really, they're really, delicate and all that stuff. But I just feel like, at least for me and for my baby, the Neo Shore was not healthy for her. It's not what her body liked. It's not what it wanted. And I had no problem totally dismissing that from my routine, or, from a breastfeeding journey. And so, what can be done about the breastfeeding or about the formula shortage? A lot can be done. I mean, I could really go on and on about this. It's just really so many other factors that go into play with this. Um, but I feel like the main thing, like I said before, which is kind of what caused the problem, is that we need more and better breastfeeding support. I feel like in this country, it's just moms are going back to work so early or too early. And then once they do go to work, if they're not protected by a company that allows them to freely breastfeed, or, will go pump in a timely fashion that they need to for their babies, the moment they go back to work, a lot of moms, it's like their breast milk dries up because they can't keep up with that pumping schedule or that feeding schedule that their babies used to at home. And then over time, they notice, they're producing less and less. They have to supplement more and more. And then, of course, more moms, they need the formula at that point. So that's one big issue right there, is that we as a whole need better breastfeeding support. We need moms that are pumping, they need to be able to pump their baby. I mean, to pump the breast milk out and express every 2 to 3 hours. Like that should not be an issue. Um, but unfortunately, it is. A lot of places don't. A lot of workplaces um, do not make that like a friendly option for moms. I know when I went back to work for my first, and I was working overnight, so she really wasn't eating every 2 or 3 hours at night. She was 6 months old at the time. But, I told my employer that I needed to pump, and their solution, it might have been the storeroom or it might have been the bathroom. Either one of those, which either location is not a good place. First of all, where's the plugs? Where am I plugging up my pump? Um, and then and then it becomes a problem of time if you don't have. So the place I was working at was just me and this other person. That person had their set job, I had my set job, and then once you were done your job, you could go home. But if I'm taking time, and the job that I had to do was kind of like setting up the other person for their job for the rest of the night. So if I had to keep leaving every 2 to 3 hours to pump, then that person was going to be massively behind because, of what I had to do. And so at that point, breastfeeding support is not considered a priority. And that, yes, and that is sad. It is sad because moms are working. They're working. A lot of moms are working. They have to work to support their families. And so we need to make sure that while they're working, if it is their goal to breastfeed, if it's their goal to continue to breastfeed, that needs to be supported. Like that's it should be a no questions asked thing. And a lot of companies really don't make that they really don't make that an easy route for moms to take. So it does come down to, how often can I pump? And if I can't keep up with the pumping and I have to use formula, it can just really derail their breastfeeding journey, which to me is like it just shouldn't be. It shouldn't even be allowed. But like I said, it's really part of a bigger issue. Our milk is perfectly designed for our babies. Yes, I agree. I agree it is. It's chicken, it's corn, it's green beans, it's milk, obviously, it's something sweet for dessert. It's just everything. So I do agree with that. And there's nothing, I mean, formula like I said, if you actually look, if you're one of those people like me, like I read labels pretty much for almost everything I eat. And if you look at the ingredients of formula, um they're really not that great. It's really not that great. And it can't okay, so like breast milk. Okay, we're gonna do a little bit of breast milk facts. Breast milk is live food, it's live enzymes, it's got antibodies in there, it's got probiotics in there, it's just a living thing. If you ever put like breast milk down and you just leave it on the counter, you'll see how the fat, I think it comes up to the top. If I'm not mistaken, the fat, like it will separate because it's a live food. So it's a lot of things in the milk, and it's not just calories for your baby, it's a lot of other things. And if you notice, if your child is sick and you are one of those moms that pump, your milk will look different when they're sick. So if you're pumping milk while they are actively sick versus when they're not sick, you'll notice that the milk looks different colors. Sometimes it's white, sometimes it's yellow, sometimes it can even be pink, even based off of the foods that you eat. So it's just a living thing. It evolves with the child, it evolves with the mom. If you yourself as a mom is are sick and you're pumping, you give antibodies, to your baby for that whatever sickness is going through you as well. So it's like it's a give and take with breastfeeding. I just think it's so beautiful. But that's something that formula cannot mimic. Formula is necessary sustenance for those children that need it, for those moms that need to use it for their child. But breastfeeding just adds that extra oomph to your child's, gut health, to your child's even down the line, breastfeeding has benefits for mom and for baby. Um, and so yeah, so what I was saying about the breastfeeding support is just in some circles it's non-existent. Um, and I hate to say that also in our community is not that it's not put as a priority. Like in the black community, it's just some moms are really passionate about it, and my job as a doula, I'm a community based doula. And so we are really, focused on it. So while you are pregnant, you're getting that breastfeeding, information and help and support. So that way, when the baby comes, you're not slammed with all of the facts and all of the things that you have to do because yes, breastfeeding is natural. And to some women, it's easy. So for me, I would say it's easy. Like I haven't really had that many trials with my breastfeeding journey, but I know some moms do. And then when you have a hungry baby screaming, you sometimes you can be like, look, this is not working right now. Give me the formula. It's easy, or I need to feed my baby right now. And if you're not producing milk, you're not producing enough milk. Sometimes breastfeeding may not be what's best for you at that time and at that moment. So that's why I really just feel like breastfeeding support and the correct breastfeeding information, because I be seeing some stuff. I just be seeing some things out there that is just it's either not true, it's given by people that either haven't breastfed that long or didn't breastfeed at all. I've um yes. Wait, is it yes, yes, yes. And that is another thing too. When formula came out on the market, so I'm not sure exactly when. I want to say like the 60s or something like that. And I'm not sure like why it was created. So I don't know. I don't know all of that. But I do know that there is a how do I want to say it? There is almost a hmm, it's kind of like C-sections and vaginal birth. So like there is a number of women who think that they are just too cute to push a baby out. They want to take a C-section because that's the easiest way out, and they're not messing up their stuff down there. It's a little off topic, but what I'm trying to say though about the formula is there is another set of women who are just too cute or whatever to breastfeed for whatever reason they have in their head. Breastfeeding is disgusting. I don't want no baby on there. I've heard some stuff, but basically, what I'm trying to say um, is if you talk to those kind of people, they will kind of discourage you from breastfeeding. They'll give you wrong facts. They'll tell you, I didn't breastfeed my babies and they turned out all right. And so, or breastfeeding is for whatever you fill in the blanks there. Um, so I do think that when formula was created, and I did hear something crazy recently that I'm going to share, but I think when formula was created, it was almost seen as if you could afford formula, you were better than a mom who had to breastfeed their child. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. And so I don't know how much of that thought process is still around in moms today. I don't know. Yes, but I did see that comment. I did see that comment somewhere recently, and the lady was basically saying, "Well, not every mom is poor, and she has to breastfeed her child. Some women can afford formula." And I'm like, "Wait, hold up. Breastfeeding is not just for women who can't afford formula. Okay, now don't get me wrong, formula is expensive, and I thank God that I have not had to use it, and I pray I won't have to use it. But breastfeeding your child is not something that only poor women do. So I do think that some of that lingers too with breastfeeding. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you appreciate this channel. Um, and it's just it really is so many things. But back to what I was saying about support. Hey girl. um, it just needs to be better support. And on that note, the maternity Mm, or the postpartum period, I wanna say, in general, in this country, it's just it's not where it needs to be. As a developed world, as a first class world or whatever, it's not where it needs to be. And I've been doing some research about other countries and, how do they treat their moms postpartumly and how do they, um, assist them and, like, certain countries like Denmark. There's one lady, one YouTuber that I watched, and she said after she had her baby, she had like 3 to 6 months of free what is it? Like house service or house what do they call it? Like housekeeping services. So where they would come to the home, clean up everything and make sure that mom was okay. Other countries make sure that the moms get like postpartum massages, um it's just more of a community kind of thing. Where in this country, it's almost like women brag about how quickly they can go back to work after birth. And I'm just like, in the whole 6 week thing, I know I'm getting a little off topic here, but the whole 6 week thing of being cleared for basically any of your physical activities that you were able to resume before you had your baby, it's trash. It really is trash. And so if that's what you have, employers thinking that at 6 weeks after vaginal birth, mom is good to go. At 8 weeks after a cesarean, moms are good to we're not. We're not good to go. We are still healing. I'm 4 months postpartum on Wednesday. I'm still healing. If I lay in the bed a certain way, sometimes I'm hurting. When I wake up in the morning, I'm hurting. And that's just the physical part of my recovery. We're not even talking about emotional. We're not even talking about mental. We're not talking about moms who are dealing with postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, breastfeeding. Like I said, if it's not going well and you want it to, or um, if you are back at work now and you're trying to keep at that supply and it's just not working out, or you know what I mean, like you can really. you can really feel bad about certain things in the 6 to 8 weeks. Is just let's just throw that out the window. We're not ready. But this country really doesn't value that. So uh yes, that is one thing I do want to talk about. So hmm, let me read that one more time. If you are, like I said, I really do feel like getting breastfeeding information and support while you're pregnant um is like one of the best things you can do for your breastfeeding journey, because it gives you time to think about things, to learn things, and of course, um before you become a parent, there may be a lot of things that you say, you would do that you won't do, that kind of thing. Like, you don't really know until you're actually in it. But the more information that you know at hand, so like if you're going through something, and it pops up instantly, then you're like, wait, I remember we were taught this. Maybe I can go back to this. Maybe I can try this. Or other moms who are breastfed, and you can talk to them. Like um, my mom breastfed us. So when it came time for me to have my kids, it was a no-brainer for me. Of course, I'm going to breastfeed. Like, and she was really instrumental. Now, even though my first was a C-section and the birth itself was traumatic, the recovery was traumatic, everything was traumatic. That is the one thing that I just feel like went perfectly for me. And it felt like the one thing that I could control out of all the other obstacles I was going through with her birth. Um, so yeah, what was I saying? So even though all of that happened, I did still have my mom as a great valuable resource, like invaluable actually. And I did a becoming a mom classes that I took. So it was like every Wednesday for 2 hours or whatever. And I really do feel like it made a difference too, because we learned about breastfeeding. We learned about how often a breastfed baby should be eating. We learned about certain problems. So, like mastitis, which thank God I've never had. Thank you, Lord. I've learned about that. Learned about engorgement, which all women will go through if you're breastfeeding, not breastfeeding, even. Learned about what's that other thing? Thrush. We learned about those things. So, if it happened or when it happened, you could kind of go back to your resources and say, hey, I learned this. I can go back here and just read over your stuff or whatever. But yeah, in a moment it's kind of hard. It's a huge learning curve, so in a moment it's a little bit harder to try to catch up. um yes, some doctors do try to discourage moms from breastfeeding. And this is the tricky thing. Okay, so you take your child to the what's it called, the pediatrician, right? And as far as I'm understanding, pediatricians do not get that much information or that much teaching on breastfeeding. And so, and this is a whole nother topic, honestly. So then you have the pediatrician telling you, oh, your baby's behind, your baby's not getting enough weight, your baby's, losing too much weight. You got things like that. So when you hear stuff like that, especially as a mom, most moms, they want what's best for their children. They're going to do whatever they can to make sure their children are fed and happy and loved and all that stuff. So when you hear that stuff, especially as a new mom, a first time mom, you're like, well, my breast milk's not enough. Well, I do have to supplement. Well, I do have to add this fortifier to my milk. I had to do that because my baby is behind, he's not on track, and I've done everything else. And it's just, it can be overwhelming. And but they don't some a lot of them do not know how to properly support you on your breastfeeding journey. Um and Saya is a little bit of a different case because, like I said, she was born early. So she was um her growth chart was like on a curve. And my boys didn't really lose too much weight when they were born, but I noticed, like, as they like 1 2, they're kind of on the lower side of things. But we were breastfeeding, so I do think, I'm not sure exactly the scales that the pediatricians use, but there needs to be different scales. There needs to be a scale for formula fed babies, and there needs to be a scale for breastfed babies, because they grow differently. You can have a breastfed baby that's just like really, really chunky and be completely breastfed, and you can have a formula fed baby that's maybe on the skinnier side. That's just their bodies. But a lot of times, I think the scales are just either one size fit all, or they're formula fed scales, and I feel like they're skewed either way. So yeah, that sometimes can make moms feel upset or worried if their child is always behind. Now, of course, it could be a supply issue, but then at that point, you need someone to help you with that supply issue, and a lot of times the pediatricians are not the ones. Um, Lactation consultants are good. From my experience, they are good-ish. And I'm not trying to they're great if they know what they're talking about. I'm just gonna say that. Let's see this next one here. Mhm. Yep. Yep, 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 and yep to that. Yes, they should we should be able, yeah, to stay home and heal. Postpartum, your body is not okay. So it took 9 months to make and create and properly form the baby. Of course, some babies are born earlier than that. Some babies go a little bit longer than that. Um, but it's going to take at least you 9 months to feel 100% again. It just is, especially if you had a C-section or if you had a traumatic birth, and it may take longer. Um, so yeah, the weeks thing is just, it's just not, it's not helping us. And there is, um, in our country, there's a high mortality rate for moms postpartum. So that first, I think they consider that first year of life, but I just feel like if the stress levels were lower, and they didn't have to worry about money or finances or whatever, and they could stay home and properly heal. You got women going out, like they schedule these appointments when you have a newborn back to back to back to back to back. And in some cultures, you're not allowed to leave the house at all. If anyone needs to see the baby, so even if it's like medical professionals, they come to the house to you because going outside with that open wound where your placenta detaches from the uterine wall, that's an open wound. And that's and also a reason why they say to restrain from sex for, at least that first 6 weeks because it's open. So you have this wound, you're walking around. It could be winter time, it could be summertime, it really doesn't matter, but you're not healed on the inside. And it's just a lot. Um, oh, so another thing that can be done about the formula shortage is milk donation. So yes, milk donations or donor milk. So I don't know if you know about that. You can check. So I know my hospital where I gave birth, they had donor milk, and actually they use that donor milk for like premature babies. So babies of yeah, babies of moms who maybe weren't making enough milk or who needed or who wanted their child to have human milk instead of the formula, they were able to have donor milk. Now I know some women, pump and donate. And I actually was going to do this because I'm one of those women that tend to have like an oversupply, but I just hate pumping. I hate pumping so much. And I know that in the past, when I tried to like look up everything, they have like rigorous, or they had rigorous, like guidelines you had to follow. So you had to do blood testing and all of that stuff. So if you are a mom who wants their baby to have, human donor milk, that can be an option for you also as well. So I would say check your local hospital. And I'm not so sure if you got to pay for it or how that goes. I know for the babies that were in the NICU, like if you requested that, it was free for you. But if you're like postpartum and you've left the hospital, and trying to get donor milk, you might have to pay. I'm not too sure. And I do know there's even some. Now this may be a little risky, but there's even some Facebook groups where moms are like, um, selling donor milk. So you can check those out too if you're like one of those formula moms, or if you're one of those formula moms who is having trouble finding formula for your baby, or if you want your baby to have donor milk, you can check out your hospital. And if you want to go that route, Facebook, and maybe if you know a friend who just recently had a baby and you trust this person because like I said, breast milk is a living thing. So there can be things in your breast milk or in someone's breast milk that may not be safe. So just, make sure you do your research on that. But hospital, check your local hospital where you delivered if you are looking for donor milk. Um, Another thing you can do is your local WIC agencies. So I know I'm not so sure, like here, if they're open in person again. They may be, based on your area. So, check for that. But they also have formula. So they should have, well, I don't want to say should and then send people there that's looking for formula, but they would have like formula, and it may not be, the specific kind that you use, but usually they have formula. And if you qualify, if you meet the income requirements and all of that, you may be able to find formula from there if you are a mom or if you are a parent who is looking for formula for your child. And then the last thing I want to mention is relactation. So if you have recently given birth, um, and say, I don't know, say you were breastfeeding and then you start breastfeeding, and now, because of the shortage, or maybe just because you want to again, you're interested in starting up breastfeeding again, that is an option for you. And even if you did not breastfeed and you want to maybe try to make breast milk, you can do that. Now, I don't know anyone personally who has done this, or do I? I don't know that much information, I guess I should say, on relactation. But if you would like a video on that, or if you're interested in that, I can definitely research it because I'm a researcher. I love researching things, I love looking up new things. But based off of what I know or what I think you put the baby to breast to kind of stimulate or get, like that breast milk, get your boobs to tell your boobs, hello, we're trying to make some milk here. And I think you even can use your pump as well. Now, I'm not sure, like I said, how often you would have to do this, or how long it takes to actually get like a production up. um but yeah, that would be an option also for you as well if you're trying to, um if breastfeeding interests you. Now, if you're just one of those moms who it doesn't interest you, that's not the route you want to go. Maybe one of these other, so checking your hospital for donor milk, or Facebook for donor milk, or checking your local WIC agency, maybe that will help you. Um, I do know that they say they have shipments waiting, and like I said, it's a whole bunch of other things that really have led to this shortage, because also there's a truck driver shortage. I don't know if you guys know that as well. Oh, okay, yes, I can definitely do that because I would like to know more about it too. Because honestly, I just think that's so amazing, um, for relactation. But so yes, there's a shortage with truck drivers also as well. So now you have stuff being delivered, and it's just stuck at the gates and at the shores and things like that. Like my dad's a truck driver. Um, and so he sees all that stuff, and you can see like pictures online if you watch the news, which I really don't watch the news. I get most of my news, through articles, like news articles or whatever. But now you got stuff that's just stuck there because there's not enough drivers to get it to the stores. So it's really, it's a huge mess. It's a huge mess. And of course, a lot of things were brought on, or even brought to more noticeable levels because of the pandemic, of course. Um, but yeah, I think that is all. I did not expect this to be that long. I think that's all I wanted to say about this, the formula shortage. But basically, let's see here. Basically, it was brought on by a whole bunch of different other things, which are really out of our control. I mean, you really can't control these things, but I do think that if more moms can breastfeed, if more moms are supported with breastfeeding, then more moms would breastfeed. That's really what I think would just help this situation and keep the situation from happening again in the future. I don't know what's going to be like the result of these companies and their lawsuits and being shut down. Like I don't think they're even up and running and making new formula again. um and from what I've seen, it's only been an issue here in this country, so I don't know. I think other countries, I know some moms were saying that you could get milk from like Canada or whatever, and some moms were doing that. But once the Canadian government saw, that that's what moms in the US were doing, then they shut that down too. So you can't go onto their websites and order their stuff and send it here. They won't let you do it because then that will cause a shortage for them. Um, yes, definitely thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it. I'm going to try to do some more lives on this video. Um, I mean, on this channel, hello, on this channel, one, to get me out of my comfort zone, and two, because it would be a little bit easier. I feel like, well, in certain situations, be a little bit easier than trying to find a quiet time to record, sit down, record, and then edit a whole video. So if I could do some more of these, that would help, especially help my watch time as well. So I think that's all. If there's any questions, if anyone has any questions, before we go. But if not, I think that's it. Yeah, and if there's any like topics, any other topics that you would like to see me do, I definitely can do those too. I do have a list of topics and I'm slowly getting through them, but every time I sit down and I think about five other different things that I could talk about on here. So so yeah, the list is coming along. But I think that's all for today. If I have anything else to add, I would definitely add that like in the comments or whatever. I'm still trying to figure out all this because when I sat down to get it going, I had to download Chrome. I had to do all this stuff. But anyway, here we are. The baby's still asleep, thank God. So I have a little bit of quiet time to myself. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it today. I hope that if you are a formula feeding mom or parent, that you are able to find some formula for your baby, even if even if you have to use maybe a different formula that you normally don't use. If you can find something as a substitute or something that is there, I guess. Try to use that and hopefully things will get better. But and please don't make your own formula. I've seen some recipes of people making their own formula. And oh, that's my last thing. Let me just say real quick. The formula that is sold is is allowed to be sold by the government and it meets the requirements that a growing infant needs. So that is the safest option for a child if you're not breastfeeding. But please don't be trying to make your own formula with seaweed and dates and honey. And I have seen some stuff, and a lot of the stuff is not even safe for infants. They're not even supposed to be eating real food before the age of 6 months. So if you can't find formula, try hopefully, donor milk or, a milk bank or WIC. Hopefully, one of those three things will have, some formula for you. Like I said, thanks again for watching. My name is Hashima. I'm a doula and mama four, and I am a super passionate about breastfeeding. So if you are interested in breastfeeding, anything motherhood, definitely subscribe to this channel, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.